Hello, beautiful ladies. Welcome back to another episode of Mademoiselle Diaries. I am Aurelia, the founder of Mademoiselle Diaries, and I am on a mission to create a generation of elegant and feminine women who just have such an unshakable faith, women who fear God, women who walk with God. The topic of comfort zone and confidence has been honestly one of the main topics in my life this year, especially reading Brave New World and being exposed to, this other side of reality when we're constantly being comforted with so many pleasures and we have access to all of these short-term and fleeting pleasures. And it's making me ask myself, what is it doing to the confidence of our generation and future generations? We see that depression rates, anxiety rates are skyrocketing. And I think partly it's because we actually have been stuck in our comfort zone for way too long. You think about it, we can simply order groceries, have food in our table with a few clicks, or we can get all the entertainment that we need through our phones. What else do we have? Now there's dating apps, obviously. We can find our partner through a swipe. So we get a lot of the rewards today without actually going through the effort and the challenge. And I think that is actually such an important factor in making you the most confident woman that you're supposed to be. I'm using my pen, I look like a teacher. I'm just gonna put it down. But I really feel like we're missing a big component that is actually the process of doing things, and I've talked about this so much, and we're just getting the reward without actually working for it. And I'm not saying you should not order anything online because you need to make effort and put in effort in everything that you do, or I'm not saying to stop the dating apps, whatever. I still use some of these services, but I do think that now when you're constantly relying on these easy conveniences, it actually does something to your confidence, because our brain, all of this technological advancement, it is new. And our brain hasn't fully adapted to this. We still have the same brain as 10,000 years ago. Our brain hasn't really evolved much. And the way that our brains evolved, it's through survival, actually. It's through working hard and hunting to get food. Or probably men used to fight each other to get a woman, our brains actually do thrive on challenge. And I think there's a reason why a lot of people now are depressed, anxious, insecure like never before. And I just wanted to offer a new perspective on confidence rather than always saying yes, dress up, look good, whatever affirmations. Yes, those can help, but actually you getting out of your comfort zone is what will help you the most. I don't think it's a coincidence that depression rates, anxiety rates are skyrocketing like never before, especially in a time where we have access to instant gratification. When you're doing something that has a little bit of your resistance, there's this part of your brain, the AMCC, gets activated, and that part of your brain is actually the one that is literally giving you the will to live, willpower, resilience. So if that part of the brain is not strengthened through challenge, and instead you're constantly opting for immediate gratification, no wonder why your will to live will decrease, your confidence will decrease.
When people do anything that and this is the important part, that they don't want to do.
Right.
It's not about adding more work. It's about adding more work that you don't want to do.
Yes.
This brain area gets bigger.
Yep.
Now, here's what's especially interesting about this brain area to me. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex is smaller in obese people. It gets bigger when they diet.
Mm-hmm.
It's larger in athletes.
Mm-hmm.
It's especially large or grows larger in people that see themselves as challenged and overcome some challenge. Scientists are starting to think of the anterior mid-cingulate cortex not just as one of the seats of willpower,
right,
but perhaps actually the seat of the will to live.
See, now we're talking.
So this is for my ladies who love protecting their peace, who loves the soft life and staying in their comfort zone. I know that I have been there. Does being comfortable actually make you confident? If you really ask yourself, I want you to even pause. If you have a journal with you, write down what actually makes you confident. What were those times when you felt so confident and you felt that unshakable confidence, I can do anything, I am courageous. What was that time for you? What did you do? I don't know about you, the times where I felt the most confident are times where I really pushed myself outside of my comfort zone and I did things that initially scared me, but once after doing it, I felt amazing about myself. I mentioned my fear of public speaking for a while, and that was something that truly haunted me for years and years. I don't know what happened after COVID, but suddenly I was so afraid to speak. It could be a job interview, it could be university presentations. I would literally freeze and I would tell the teacher, like, I'm so sorry, I can't continue. And I would ask someone else to take over me because I was so nervous and so afraid. Now, what I didn't realize is it's totally normal to be nervous and afraid of doing things that are outside of your comfort zone. For me, it's public speaking. Like, I'm not the most extroverted person ever, and I don't enjoy that so much, but I didn't realize, like, it's okay to be afraid of doing things, and that fear in itself, like, you need to be more familiar with it, and instead of like running away from it, pretend it's not there, you need to actually say, like, screw this, like, I am so afraid, but I'm still gonna do it. And then the feeling that you get, the confidence that you feel afterwards, it's amazing. And I reflected on this, like, so this year I really tried to make a conscious effort, for example, in my public speaking, and really putting myself in situations where I have to host things, like, for example, my book clubs, my feminine hours in Mademoiselle Society, or mentoring women and podcasts, all of these things, like that. This is so not my comfort zone, and I have consciously made a decision to put myself in these situations, because every single time after I do these things, after I do an interview, for example, or I'm featured in a podcast or magazine, whatever, I feel so confident afterwards because I'm proving myself, like, you did that. You went outside of your comfort zone and you did not choose the easy route. Like, because I could have really just stayed comfortable and avoided the fear, I could have just avoided all the situations that required me to speak publicly. I could have done that. But I think deep down that would just increase my hopelessness. It would be just a temporary relief because I'm not going to hide all of my life. At some point, I will have to speak in different rooms if I want to be the woman that I claimed that I want to be, the dream woman that I have in mind. I consciously made the decision this year, like, I don't care, I'm gonna actually expose myself to things that I'm afraid of. And this is what people even do in therapy. Like, exposure therapy is when people are, for example, afraid of, I don't know, snakes or an animal. They would try to expose themselves little by little to the animal. I don't really know exactly much about it. I've just heard of it, but I'm guessing this is how it goes. You expose yourself to that fear, but in a controlled setting, so you feel more in control, and then you increase the level more and more each time, and eventually speaking will be so natural to you. Like, for me now, I'm hosting a call with my girls. It's like I'm hanging out with the girls and I'm not nervous about anything. I don't feel the pressure to perform or anything because it's just so natural now. Even doing these YouTube videos, it feels way more natural. I don't have to edit as much and just speak with more ease and with more flow, but that takes a lot of effort and a lot of going out of my comfort zone to get to this point. So this is kind of what I remind myself when I'm nervous about something. I'm like, you know what, I know that I'm afraid of doing this, but I know that on the other side, I will feel so much more confident. It's the same thing with dancing. I'm not sure if I've talked about this, but this year I really took up dancing. I've been to a few dancing classes. Finally, it has been almost a decade since I went into a dancing class. And it's because all this time I was really stuck in my comfort zone. And I felt so intimidated being surrounded with people who knew how to dance, who were dancers. I felt so intimidated, and until one day I went with my friends, like, you know what, let's do it. Let's go to dance class. It's been so long since I've been wanting to do this. And I remember the first dance class that I attended. It was a very complicated choreography. Like, I was lost. I didn't remember really much. And at the end of it, the dance teacher tells us to separate in small groups of 3 or 4, and then to dance in front of the class and show and like almost like perform, And then we would be recorded as well. I felt so embarrassed. I literally told the teacher, like, hey, I do not know this dance at all. Like, I really don't remember, and I don't want to do it. thankfully my teacher said, like, no, you're going to do it. There's no reason why you can't do it. Like, everybody else is doing it, you can do it. It doesn't matter if you remember or not. I just want to see you dance. Like, it's gonna be so healing for your body. The teacher was super encouraging, and I was like, oh my god, fine. And I remember going up in the group, started dancing. I felt so embarrassed, but little by little that embarrassment literally melted. And because I was so scared and so embarrassed, I had to tap into the little bit of confidence that I had. And I reached, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it, but this was the fear. This was the fear. I had to reach an even deeper level of confidence, higher level of confidence than my fear to be able to dance. I have no idea how to explain it, but with the extreme fear came the extreme confidence, and I started dancing like a total different human being. Like, I just felt so good. I felt amazing. And that's why I would so recommend you ladies going into a dance class or anything that you've been wanting to do for the longest time. But especially dance class, ladies, like, I swear, it does something to your confidence where now you feel like the baddest of them all. But yeah, I highly recommend doing this. But ever since, I've been so addicted to that feeling, and it really taught me that actually extreme confidence is on the other side of extreme fear. And I don't know if you ladies watched this movie. It's called The Life List. I think it's a new movie as well. It's on Netflix. And basically it's this daughter who receives a mystery inheritance from her mother who has passed. So what her mom left her with was a series of DVDs with all of the challenges that she had to complete. And so one of the DVDs was, you have to do a stand-up comedy, like to actually have your own stand-up comedy show, like just for one night. And so she did that, and she felt so embarrassed, nobody laughed. And after that, she watched the next DVD to see the next challenge, and the mom said, yeah, it's very scary, right? You're probably very embarrassed, but don't you feel alive? And that really stuck with me. I don't know why. There's sometimes like these lines in movies, like that's why I love movies so much, but there's sometimes these lines in movies that just really stick to me. Yes, it's very scary, but don't you feel alive? Like, that is when you feel truly alive to this life experience, when your adrenaline is so high, when you're doing things outside of your comfort zone, you're afraid, you're super nervous. But don't you feel alive? Don't you feel this full human experience? And a lot of times we're almost villainizing these emotions, these feelings of fear, of stepping outside of your comfort zone, these feelings that are not peaceful. Because now we're talking all the time about protecting our peace or safe spaces. I think safe spaces are important, but actually I think we're going a little bit too far in the sense that when we're constantly in a safe space, we're actually blocking and shielding ourselves from discomfort, right? From anything that is unsafe. That is not how the world works. That is also not how you become a confident person. You need to expose yourself literally to discomfort to be able to grow, to be able to be more confident, to handle more challenges in life. These safe spaces are not real. In reality, it is not real, and our brains are not adapted to these spaces where everything is safe all the time and nothing triggers you. It hasn't been that long since we're living in modern society. If you look at, the whole history of time where human beings lived in this planet, it hasn't been that long. Most of the time that we've been in this planet, we have constantly been exposed to spaces that are unsafe. And when we're teaching our generation that we need to constantly feel peaceful and to feel safe, like, that's not really, I'm not saying that you need to actively look for chaos. I'm just saying that discomfort actually can be so valuable to you and to your growth. Because if you're constantly in a safe space and in spaces where you are never triggered, you're constantly avoiding discomfort, and you're teaching your brain that you have to avoid discomfort at all costs for survival. When in reality, how you become confident is, I handled that despite all the challenges. I responded to that very calmly despite how triggering it was. Oh, I was able to converse with someone with a different opinion than me. I am fully capable for standing for my own voice, for my own cause. Like that is actually how you grow, not necessarily in spaces where you feel comfortable all the time. And we need to just have this mindset shift. But at the same time, like, I have so much empathy because we have grown since we're small, like especially in this generation. We have so much access to everything, like in an instant, and everything now is in our phones. We don't even need to move to be distracted. We don't need to go to places, for example, to find entertainment, or we don't need to go to the grocery store anymore. Or men, for example, they don't have to ask a girl out on a date. They can just do everything literally on the phone with just simple finger movements. That is the current stage of society. But again, that is not how our brains thrive. Like, we thrive on challenge. Challenge gives us confidence. And actually yesterday in my church, the sermon was talking about this as well. You probably already know the story where the Israelites, they want to go to this promised land, and God really, says like, hey, there's going to be so much abundance in this promised land. And so far they have been provided daily with the daily bread, or we call the manna, like the daily manna. And they've been provided all this time. They have enough every single day. But God is like, okay, I'm calling you to even more abundance, to a land where there's going to be so much olive oil, honey, water flowing from the rivers. There will be everything that you would want. You will have enough for the day, the weeks, the months. So before coming into this promised land, one group visited this land first just to check out, like, okay, is there actually food in here, and what threats do we have there? So this is in Numbers 13. If you want to open up your Bibles, feel free. But Numbers 13 verse 27, we went in the land where you sent us. Indeed, it is flowing with milk and honey, and here is some of its fruit. However, the people living in the land are strong, and the cities are large and fortified. We also saw the descendants of Anak there. And later after that, in verse 31, it says, we can't attack the people because they are stronger than we are. A little bit after that, verse 33, to ourselves we seemed like grasshoppers, and we must have seemed the same to them. So God had promised this level of abundance in this promised land. They visited it, they saw all the good stuff in there, all of the abundance, but then they saw these giant people, the Anak descendants, whatever. God freaked out, and you're like, okay, never mind, I'm coming back to the comfort zone. I'm coming back to where we're provided daily, where we just have enough. And that's literally what's happening with us. What happened with the Israelites, they literally self-sabotaged for 40 years. They settled for just enough when God really had so much more for them in store. God had so much abundance for them in store. But they were just like, you know what, that is too risky. I'm a bit afraid of these giants, so I'm gonna stay in this place. Like, this is comfortable for me. Although, like, I'm a little bit stressed out by tomorrow. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna be provided for tomorrow, but I'm just gonna settle here because I'm too afraid to go there. But what they didn't realize is that once they actually entered the land, God held a covenant with the people that He will protect the people and He will bless the people. So even if there were these giants, they would be protected. The Israelites didn't believe in that, so they self-sabotaged for 40 years. This really made me think, because my pastor said something yesterday, and he said people are willing to be in bondage rather than trusting in God, rather than trusting in His power. We say that we want to make room for God, that we want to have faith, blah, blah, blah. But if it includes stepping out of your comfort zone, now all of a sudden you don't want any more. How can you have faith? How can you make room for God if you are always in your comfort zone? I think this is something that, especially as believers, we need to know. Ladies, I want you to realize that you staying in your comfort zone is actually so destructive, and it damages your relationship and your trust in God. If you're constantly relying on what is in front of you and your own abilities, rather than how will God provide for me in this situation, and how will He give me, for example, the right words to speak in this job interview or in this public speaking job. Not giving room for God if you're constantly, number one, fixating on your fears, 2, staying in your comfort zone, and 3, only focusing on what you lack rather than how God can actually help you in there. And that is where the true confidence is when you don't really fully rely on your abilities. You're now fully reliant on what God can do and how He will take care of the whole situation. That is a whole other level of confidence, but that requires you actually stepping out into faith rather than always being comforted with everything. You cannot say that you have faith and confidence in God if you're not stepping out in faith. And you see all the characters in the Bible, or even one of my favorite books of the Bible is the Psalms, the beautiful Psalms that David wrote. He was going through it. He was, being persecuted, all these things. But that made him, God says that this is a man who is after God's heart. Like, David was really a man who was after God's heart, and he had such a deep level of confidence and assurance and faith because he was definitely outside of his comfort zone. He was getting persecuted, literally. And we need to stop being so comfortable, in these spaces and protecting your peace. I love that. I love having peace. I love being safe. All of us, we really want that. There's actually in our nature to want to have these things. But I feel like we're taking it into a whole other level where now there's literally no challenge. And when there's a little bit of challenge, a little bit of setback, we now think that the whole world is falling apart. It's because our brains haven't been trained to actually seek challenges and to embrace discomfort. But really, that is when God will be able to show you His faithfulness. And this is a very real life example of me right now. Basically, I have been feeling called to come back to Paris this year. It has been a year since God has been putting in my heart, like, go to Paris. And for a while, I've been putting it off. I was like, I'm not really sure if I'll go back. I just wanted to come back for like a month or so. Anyway, God has been so faithful. I got my ticket a month and a half ago. And although all of this year I've been so excited about going to Paris and everything, coming back to visit my family, my friends, and just something in Paris is calling me there, And I've been really excited and looking forward to this trip. As soon as I booked the ticket, I suddenly started to feel nervous. I was like, what did I do? Like, I'm going back-to-back trips. I was in Australia 2 weeks ago. This Saturday, I'm going to Paris. Like, I'm going back-to-back trips and long trips. I stayed in Australia for 3 weeks. Paris, probably more than a month I'll be there. And I was like freaking out a little bit because I'm like, okay, financially, I'm not really sure if I'm there yet. Like, I'm not really 100% sure, even mentally. Being like adapting to all of these travels. Like, I don't know if I can do it. And I was just freaking out after booking the ticket. I was like, is this a good idea? What are people going to think of me? They're going to think that I'm constantly traveling, blah, blah. Silly voices in my head. Anyway, the last few weeks, I have felt immense peace like never before about this trip. And I think it's because I really focused on God's provision and God's ability to provide for me and His faithfulness all throughout my entire life, that now I'm putting that pressure away from myself. And this morning, yesterday at church, our pastor was talking about the promised land, blah, blah, blah. This morning I reread the story and I was just bawling my eyes out. I was just like crying because I'm like, God, you have been so faithful all of my life. You have been providing me like my daily bread every day. And even more than that, like, not even just talking financially, the love that I have around me, like, I'm really surrounded. I'm so blessed with such amazing people in my life, and that is all God's works. Like, I did not create these human beings. I did not manufacture anything. It's truly God who brought these people into my life. And I was just crying. I was like, God, like, thank you so, so much. And you have provided me in ways that I can never thank you. And anyway, after my crying session, I felt such immense peace. I was like, wow, like, I feel so ready. I don't even care what my finances look like. Like, I know that God, you will provide once I'm there. I know that you will. You always have. And guess what? Literally today was just so insane. I woke up, I checked my notifications after doing my Bible study, and I see all of my payouts. Like, I wish I could show you all the notifications. I'm not going to do that, just, for valid reasons. all of my notifications from my bank account, all of the payouts, the sales came in overnight. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what just happened? This is insane. Like, this is absolutely insane. So I'm actually like sharing this because it's been crazy today. Like, it's such a big testimony that God actually always provides perfectly in time. I'm going to my trip Saturday. I'm just more reassured in the sense that, I mean, yes, for sure, like financially, but also because like I know that God is always on time and he has been faithful all of my life. So why would I ever doubt him? That is a whole other level of confidence. And you know what? I could have just stayed in my comfort zone and not done the travels and not go to Paris like for a month and just, do all the things that I want to do there. I could have just been disobedient, not listened to God, and just keep postponing it, staying in my comfort zone. But actually, me stepping outside of my comfort zone allowed me to actually see more abundance, because now I'm like trying to find other ways to create more abundance with God. And I swear I would not be able to access this abundance without actually stepping outside of my comfort zone. When you step outside of your comfort zone, you're taking higher risk. You're also getting higher reward. This is the promised land. This is applicable to your life as well. I don't know what you're contemplating on doing, but I just want to be a reminder that if it is something like that you've been wanting to do, but you're not really sure because it is a little bit risky or it involves you stepping outside of your comfort zone, I am your sign. I'm telling you to just go after it, because I have been in the same boat as you like a few months ago when I didn't know if I wanted to do these back-to-back trips. I just go ahead and did it, but yes, it required a lot of faith in God that he's going to provide, but trust me, he freaking will. Like, he will. He will, and I want you to step outside of the comfort zone. I'm not saying make stupid decisions and risky decisions. Please don't blame it on me. I'm just going to say my testimony. I'm just going to say, what the word even says about the promised land. Like, yes, it is risky. In the end, the Israelites in the story, they end up going into the promised land. And of course, this was 40 years later, so some people already had died. And they had come into the promised land, but it wasn't without battle. They still had to go through battles in the promised land. But with that, on the other side, they also had access to all of the abundance, all of the oil, all of the food, the water. All of it was accessible after going through that period of uncertainty, of discomfort. So you may ask, okay, Aurelia, thank you for that. I will try to embrace discomfort in my life and try to, step out of my comfort zone. So how do I actually do that though? Okay, there are many, many things that you can do. In week 2 of the Embodied Mademoiselle, one of the challenges that I ask the ladies to do is that every single week they do something that they are scared about. So maybe it's like a dance class or a public speaking gig, whatever it is. Do at least one thing that genuinely scares you every single week. And you're doing it in a conscious way as well. So you're not, it's a controlled way and you're not really caught off guard. So you actually feel more in control with this. So I think it's the best way to expand your confidence is to actually do these acts, these brave acts, I call it in the Embodied Mademoiselle, these brave acts consciously. So every single week, dedicate one day where you're going to go to that dance class. Dedicate one day where you're going to do that scary thing. And every single day too, ladies, I want you to microdose on these brave acts. So do something that requires challenge, that is uncomfortable. Maybe it's working out in the gym, but every single day you need at least to do one thing that gets you outside of your comfort zone. And there's many things that I also would encourage other than just these brave acts, because like I said, we can do everything on our phone, right? We can have all of the distractions, the Netflix on our phone, dating apps, what else can we do? Like order groceries, we can do everything on our phones. I want you to actually put in the effort towards each activity, and if it's leisure that you're seeking for, go to the cinema instead of staying at home and in your phone. If you want to socialize, go see your friend instead of FaceTiming them. If you want to date, go outside, see people, talk to people. I want you to stop looking at your phone for all of these solutions. You can do leisure even outside of your phone. Just try to find creative ways that require you to stay away from your phone. If you want to get food, go get your groceries outside and dress cute, make it fun. If you want to read the news, how about you get a magazine or a journal instead of scrolling on social media? I'm telling you, there's so many creative ways and it's so fun. Like, I love doing this. I love getting my magazine. I love going to the cinema. I'm a very nostalgic person, so whenever I do these things, I'm like, I'm like living in the 90s or something. Like even little things, like people actually used to go to record store to listen to music. Now we can listen to music anywhere. Like, these are such privileges, but at the same time, like, I want you to go through that effort because it makes the whole experience so much better. So maybe instead of listening to music in with your AirPods, how about you go to a jazz club tonight? Adding friction actually makes the experience even more valuable. And actually, side note for my business ladies, when you add friction, for example, if you have a coaching open, you have coaching slots or whatever, you're selling a program, when you add a little bit of friction, like they have to apply or fill in a form, they now value your program or your coaching even more than if they just buy it directly. Like, they would value it more. That's why when you buy that Birkin bag, you have to do some kind of application. I have no idea what you're supposed to do, but you're supposed to actually request it way before because they can't just sell it like that. So when you actually add a little bit of friction even to your experiences, now you actually value them more. Okay, I'm going a little bit tangent, but I love talking about living a life of depth, living a life that is rich and full of experience. And I really genuinely want you ladies to experience such unshakable confidence. I can say to you ladies that because I've done so many things that have scared me, especially this year, I really stepped outside my comfort zone and fully relied on God's abilities. I'm able to actually experience such a deeper level of unshakable confidence, and it's almost delusional to this point. I love the glow up tips and everything, but I think that's just addressing the confidence problem in a surface level. Confidence is way deeper than that, and it is on the other side of extreme fear. Okay, my beautiful ladies, I'll see you guys next time. Mwah.